welcome to YBC Remote Talk. I am Harold Booker, member of YBC, and I will be the moderator for this evening. We encourage you to please like, follow, and share all of our social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel at YBC Remote. Today, we're talking career pivots with D1 basketball referee and software developer, Gerda Gatling. The crossover, a journey from sports to tech. As always, we hope that the YBC Remote conversations will be informative and educational for our listening audience. We expect today's conversation to be nothing less. I am joined this evening by YBC founder, Tanya, and YBC members, Mishan and Eunice. Thank you all for joining me. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mishan, since this is your debut appearance, can you take a minute to introduce yourself to the YBC Remote listeners?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mishan. I'm a business analyst. I work for a technology company. I currently reside in the great state of Texas. However, I'm a Houston native. Outside of work, I find myself always looking for new technologies, investment opportunities, and assisting my friends launch their businesses and accomplish their goals. Thank you all for having me.
Thanks, Mishan. Tonight's special guest is Gerda Gatling. She's a native of Woodbridge, Virginia, whose career has taken her from Wall Street banks to the NBA and now a startup tech company. She has had a range of careers from operations, refereeing, and now as a software developer. Most recently, Gerda has partnered with high school classmates to raise over $10,000 for scholarships for Black students of their alma mater. What's most impressive is this money was raised in less than a month through crowd fundraising, which speaks to the power of Black collective economics when we as a community work together. We'll pick her brain about career pivots, switches, being a minority, Black and female and white male dominated industries of sports and technology, as well as how you can use sports and networking to finance your education. Welcome, Gerda.
Hey, YBC. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Now that we've introduced everybody, we can get going. So I always like to start from the beginning. Let's start back in 2013. We were both in New York, young, living our life, and you were working at operations for some Wall Street banks. How'd you get to New York and how'd you get into banking?
I was brought to New York by a full scholarship. I played basketball at Stony Brook University, which is out on Long Island, a mid-major Division I school. And then, naturally being in the suburbs of the city, in the city's shadow, I wanted to get into finance, wanted to, make some money. I thought finance was a route to make a lot of money. Coming from a Nigerian household, the goal, once you get into college is definitely to immediately make some money. And I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor. So Wall Street sounded like the next best solution. And that's where I found myself after college.
And was it something like planned, or did you just kind of happenstance your way into, Wall Street operations, or?
So, though my majors were business and economics, my focus in college was accounting, and I realized I just probably wasn't going to be an accountant. It wasn't something that I really enjoyed to do. So I did kind of go to the financial route, but operations wasn't like the goal for me. I definitely wanted to be more front office, middle office. But operations definitely was the easiest to get your foot in the door. So that's where I saw myself as far as like just getting my foot in the door at a major Wall Street firm, and then hopefully looking to work my way up from there.
And then how did you make that first pivot?
The first pivot, so out of finance?
Yeah.
So, because I have a couple pivots, so we have to make sure we're on the right one.
All right, let me be more specific. How did you make the first pivot out of finance into the MBA?
Okay. So, I had done a couple years in finance, and I was finding it hard to move up, honestly. For whatever reason, I went from one firm to the next, and I was getting good reviews, but the checks weren't reflecting the reviews. And I was like, at a point in my life where, opposed to sticking in something where I saw other senior level Black professionals unhappy, but found themselves stuck because they were paying for their children's education or whatever the case may be. They become accustomed to a lifestyle. I wanted to make a pivot earlier in my career. Mm-hmm. So I originally wanted to go into tech early in my career. And my friend had told me about a boot camp. He went and did it. I was unable to do it because I had to go to a funeral in Nigeria, and it was going to take a number of weeks for the funeral because whole week-long process. So a couple months later, I got the opportunity to work at the NBA, unforeseen by me. I had started refereeing on the side just as a way to make some extra money. Being not that I wasn't from New York, I wanted to kind of immerse myself in New York basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started refereeing on the side with one of my friends who also played in college. And next thing you know, I was in a board meeting for the Black and Latino Alumni Association at Stony Brook, for which I'm on the board for. And one of the board members who worked at the NBA was just, having casual conversation, asked me what I was doing for the weekend. I was like, refereeing some games. I just had like a stressful day in finance of looking for jobs on my job. So
I think we all can relate to that, Gerda.
Trying to do your job. I was like, this is not it. This is not it. So she was like, I'm helping start a referee development program at the NBA. Would you be interested in refereeing full time? And my eyes immediately lit up. What is that?
I said that was a no-brainer, right?
Right, that was a no-brainer. Like the question was this semantics at that point. So I immediately, said yes. I'd only been refereeing probably like 3 to 4 months, like rec league, by the way. So
you were new, is what you're talking
I
about.
was very new. I was working like the hood tournaments in New York, like very, very bottom level.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, just messing up games realistically. So she told me she needed a referee resume from me. Obviously, I didn't have one. So I went back to my desk at the firm I was at, and I just threw one together and shot it over to her. They were pretty much at the end of interviewing for that program, but I was able to get an interview on the last day. I was the last person, and then next thing you know, I was hired, and I was in the first class of 8, 4 males, 4 females of the first referee development program.
That's really cool, and it's kind of great that it happened, and you made that connection from volunteering and giving back to your university. What type of experiences did you have while you were at the NBA? Like, what did you actually do? So you said you were a full-time ref.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. So
our program was unique in that it was a hybrid. Also, as I mentioned, we were the first class. So we were, test dummies, to be quite frank. They were trying to see, is this something that's going to work? Is it something that's valuable to the league? So we would break down film. We would also referee various events. And we would get evaluated by higher ups that were in NBA officiating or G League officiating. Our direct mentor was a gentleman who officiated back in the 80s. Very knowledgeable. Worked Magic Johnson. Worked Dr. Dre. Worked not Dr. Dre, but Michael Jordan. So. A lot of the various players, but and aside from on the court stuff, then we would go and do rotations. So our rotations is kind of like finance. We would have rotations within the business, and we would go from. So my first rotation was WNBA referee ops. Then I go to NBA referee ops. Then I go to basketball operations, and basketball operations is what makes the league run. They handle all the stuff with the players. They handle the fines. They handle new rules. They handle everything. So if you're in basketball ops at the league, that's where everybody wants to work because you're touching the real business of the league.
So in addition to refereeing on the court, you were also learning the business and behind the scenes happening at the NBA as a corporation.
Exactly.
And what did you feel like that did for your career in relation to the finance world and just where you were trying to go career-wise?
It was very important to me especially because I was pivoting, that I wanted to still have that business mindset. I never, even when I was a player, I never wanted to be that player that didn't take their academics seriously because, sports, it can be here one day, gone the next, especially when you're a player, you can get injured. I've had friends that have gotten injured and haven't played the rest of their college career. So And when I pivoted into officiating, I thought in the same light that, you know, if something happens, anything could happen. You know, I could break my leg and now I can't officiate. So I always wanted to like also be immersed in the business as well, just because learning the business of basketball was an opportunity that not many people get to have. And then knowing that like as a former player, this is like a dream job for me to work for this league. So I definitely made sure I soaked it up and just made a lot of connections and networked and just learned what people were doing there.
So this is a YPC talk, and we like to talk about race and culture. And one of the big topics that keep creeping up and up is around the lack of diversity in those operations type roles, the front office, the coaching staff, the refereeing. How do you see your role as a response to that lack of diversity and of Black folks and women, right, who are on the players on the court?
Well, so as an official, I do feel like while there's not a lot of diversity in some leagues, especially in some sports like basketball. I'm lucky in that basketball we're definitely more diverse than other sports. To be quite frank, everybody knows that. You don't even have to look up the roster to know that we're the more diverse league when it comes to our like officiating. But as a Black female who also played the game, and oftentimes I would say I look, as far as the color of my skin, like the players that are on the court. Sometimes I'm able to relate with them more than maybe my counterparts. So I would definitely use that to my advantage because I can speak their language. You know what I mean? Whereas some people may feel like they're being aggressive or they're being irate or upset. Sometimes it's about the culture, and understanding the culture. And I think also that's like a gift that we have as being Black in certain spaces, and we are able to understand the culture and navigate that culture a lot better than our white counterparts. Whereas there's other areas of the business that we have to kind of learn to navigate, and they just that's part of their culture that they just come out and that know how to do that. So I try to use that to my advantage. Obviously, there's a lot of room for growth as far as diversity in the front office. I think the league is doing a great job as far as getting more females in front office positions, and then also looking to just diversify leadership in general. But just like any other business, there's a long way to go. The reality is the makeup of the court and the makeup of the office are not synonymous. And, I'm sure that is something that, the players, it's important to the players that, people that are making decisions about things that affect their livelihood also, are in tune to who they are as people and look like them.
Yeah, I felt my ears perk up, Gerda, because you said some key diversity and inclusion words, right? Around angry, irate, things that were often classified as just because of the lack of cultural understanding. So maybe we'll do a show about that later in the future.
Yeah. That's a whole other show for sure.
Right.
I can only imagine some of the experiences you've had when folks are passionate about the sport and elbows are being thrown and you're right in the midst of it all, having to kind of calm down the situation. Cultural competency.
Yes, cultural competency. That's a great way to put it. And also, oftentimes I think males may be worried that since like females are working in male games that like we might get injured or because it's a lot more aggressive in tone than the women's game. The women, there's things that men say to each other during the game that women just aren't going to say to each other. And if they do, it's going to be taken in a different context than if men are talking about it. That's just, the difference in our game. But I will say that through my experience personally, that as a female on various men's games, they are very aware when you're in there. So they're not, if there's a physical confrontation, they're very aware when a female official is there opposed to when a male official is there, and they're probably going to keep going. When a female official is there, they're still aware and, so worried about our safety. They're not going to just keep, jawing at each other and getting physical knowing that there's a female official standing in the middle. So that has been, beneficial for most sane players, I would say.
Right. You're rough in hockey, not basketball.
Yeah. There's sometimes disagreements.
So question for you. So there's people right now at their jobs contemplating, right? Should I make that pivot? Should I make that change? Should I make that step? What would you tell them? Because for you, it's worked out, and clearly, you're happy. What would you tell that person, and how to navigate, just come to that decision to jump?
That's a good question. I think the main thing, honestly, is having confidence in yourself. I think I do have a lot of friends that are also questioning that same thing. Like, should I pivot? What should be my pivot? Is it too late for me to pivot? I think that's like the question that everybody always asks themselves. Like, is it too late? Like, kind of been doing this for a little while. It's never too late. That's first and foremost. And once you really and truly believe that, then you can go out about and outlining how do you want to pivot. But the thing is, I think most people are worried that it's A, too late, and B, that their prior experiences won't align with what they want to pivot into, and that's just not the reality. Especially in 2020, where hiring and I feel like job descriptions aren't as rigid as they once were. Right. So you can really bring in various skill sets, and you have to be confident in your skill sets, right? Like I can tell you till I'm blue in the face that you have various skills to be a referee, or you have various skills to be a software developer, but you have to believe it. You have to really dive in. Like, these are my strengths. I'm not really worried about my weaknesses, because at the end of the day, when I come into the interview, they know what I do have and they know what I don't have. So you have to be just confident in what you do bring to the table and be willing to know that, like, I don't know everything. That's why I'm pivoting, and I'm able to learn. And I think selling that you're able to learn and that you're willing to learn and be a sponge is also very paramount when you want to pivot.
Yep.
That's a good segue to the next question. So following the MBA, you took a non-traditional route to gaining the software development education. How did you end up in tech? Like, what was that transition? What was that pivot like?
Okay. Yeah, so after the MBA, so that was a 3-year program. So after the MBA, now I find myself Division I women's college basketball, still pursuing like the G League. But the program's over, so it's time for me to also like start thinking what I want to do to supplement the experience I got at the league office. And I went back to tech. So as I mentioned earlier, tech was on the forefront of my mind when I was trying to pivot out of finance. Mm-hmm. And there's a lack of people of color, there's a lack of females, and there's constant career growth. Like, there's always something new that's coming out in tech. There's always something that could be made better. So like I said, my friend I mentioned Bootcamps. I went back to just looking up and analyzing what are the best Bootcamps, what opportunities are out there, and then what diversity opportunities are out there, because everybody's saying that they want to hire people of color and they want to hire women. So there has to be something out there that will benefit me, because I check both boxes. So, there has to be something that will be beneficial to me. And to my surprise, there was. And as far as to my surprise, that I was able to find a full scholarship boot camp. So boot camps usually range from like, I would say to $10,000 to $20,000.
They're expensive. They're really expensive.
Depending on the length of the boot camp and just the quality and other factors, what you're learning, it's going to be about $10,000 to $20,000. And then on top of that, obviously you're not guaranteed a job, and it's not traditional, so you're not able to get like student loans or anything like that. So most of these boot camps are not going to be filled with students that look like us, because not many of us have $20,000, $10,000 sitting around to make this like investment in yourself. But it's also a risk, because you can't work. You're in boot camp from 9 to 5. For my boot camp, it was 9 to 5 for 3 months. So that's everything for 3 months. And not many people in our community can really take that type of risk without having anything coming in. So for me, I heard of a scholarship, another like for one-off that Amex had originally paired with the United Negro Fund to do, and they wanted to have a cohort at a boot camp that was only minorities. So, and that'd be perfect. So I applied for the cohort. I got an interview, and then next thing you know, I got in there. Out of 1,200 people, they selected 25 of us.
Oh wow! So it was super competitive. Did you have any prior like coding knowledge or technology experience prior to that?
No, no. I had went to IT high school, but I had to, back then I just, you don't know what you don't know. So I thought I just took the graphic design route. Looking back, I really wish that I had a mentor back then that was talking about programming or other cohorts that we had in our high school. But a lot of the students of color were all in graphic design for the most part.
That's actually a good point. Or something I wanted to ask you, since you know how challenging it is to be or coming up in high school and not being guided in the right direction, right? Because everyone's always like, be a doctor, be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do now, given that you kind of went through your avenue, the road to get here? What would you tell people who have kids or who are younger, like be in tech? How to get there? How do you find yourself going back to the community or mentoring or things of that nature to get people back into, or people like us interested in tech rather?
Yeah. Well, the thing I think what's really dope about tech is that you don't necessarily need a degree.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to go into boot camp and had no degree, but like really excelled at programming, you will do just fine. Same thing as IT, graphic design, etc. So I feel like while degrees are definitely, in my personal opinion, still important, that it gives you that avenue as well. If that the traditional degree might not simply be for you, but there's still a way to get to the bag. And there's still a way to excel and be in management as you move up and through your career without that degree if you're in tech. That's not really the case for many other disciplines that I know personally. But as far as like mentorship, I really wish that I had a mentor when I was in high school and just like to kind of like talk about different career paths. For me personally, I feel like I wasn't really concrete about what I wanted to do. Even after I was like graduated early from college and was a double major, I still wasn't really sure what I really wanted to do. And I feel like I didn't really get a career mentor until I was at the MBA. So like I'm already like a couple years into my career. So in finance, I didn't have a career mentor, which probably could have helped us when I'm talking about I'm finding it hard to move up despite my end of year and mid year reviews being good.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm a firm believer. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tanya.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's important to point out, right, that you not only went from finance to MBA to tech, but you went for what I call the gold in tech, right? Because being a Black female and going into coding, that is where we're least represented, right? All of us are in tech, and we sit on more of the business side, not necessarily the development side. So I think there's a lot to be said about that, right? And just how you took your path to get there, and a lot of knowledge and I think give back there, right, around the importance of we have what the programs out here I've seen it, Black Girls Code. Those are important programs that I think, and you being a representation of what that can look like is super duper important. So my hats off to you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely sometimes feel like, I mean, on our engineering team, we have was two Black females. But yeah, there's definitely not many of us, but I do think that especially with everything that's going on right now, it's almost like it couldn't be a better time to be Black in tech or trying to get. That's just the reality of it. Like there's some times where like opportunities are more frequent than others, and I really feel like with Black Lives Matter and every company from big to small looking to diversify their workforce and really from top to bottom, from entry level to management, everybody's trying to get their hands on the best Black employees, and this is like a time for us to really capitalize on that. You got to strike by the iron hot. That's why I tell my friends all the time. Like, while this is going to be important for the course of our life, this might not only be important for corporate for the next 6 months, and then something else will be maybe a little bit more important in their eyes as far as like metrics and diversity inclusion metrics.
So you definitely stole my next question, which was going to be all about what has your experience been like being a Black woman in tech. So I'm going to pivot and I'm going to ask you a slightly different question. So what is it like, I guess, going through that interview process? I've heard that it's very rigorous. You have to do like coding exercises. And then I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in there because once again, we like to talk about race and culture here.
We got to.
Like going through that interview process as a Black woman, understanding that the folks you were interviewing for would likely be white men or Asian men, right? Because they also dominate the tech space on the more technical sides. What was it like going through the interview process? Like, did you feel pressure to like straighten your hair or to try to assimilate European?
Well, the thing I personally like the most about tech is that I don't feel that pressure. So when I was working in finance, I definitely would straighten my hair way more often, and had to put on an act, if you will, or persona. I do feel like in tech I can be more myself, and that might be because I'm on an engineering team and I'm not client facing. So no one will ever see me, but I do feel like I can be more authentic, and that is also something that kind of drew me to tech as well. In sports and officiating, there is a look that is like the North Star and that everybody's kind of like looking to achieve. So that can be kind of tough depending on your personality. But in tech, I feel like authenticity is really kind of like what is welcome. But as far as the engineering interviews were tough. Like, I will not sugarcoat, those engineering interviews are tough. You're you're in front of a whiteboard with a group of usually white males, and you're in front of them solving problems and hoping that, obviously everybody has imposter syndrome in engineering. They always talk about it all the time that many people have imposter syndrome. But if a white male is telling me that he has imposter syndrome, imagine me, the Black girl that just pivoted here, and I'm hoping that the coding. I'm hoping that y'all don't think like, oh, this Black girl is not getting this as quickly as ever. So I always kind of laugh when we talk about imposter syndrome in engineering, because I'm like, if only y'all knew, y'all think y'all don't belong. Like, imagine if you don't look like the rest of the room.
Right.
Like, you kind of get people have definitely been known to get nervous. For me, I think I usually equate it to being on the court. Like, this is like lights on, time to go. Like, I don't really have time to be nervous when I'm, someone's driving to the basket and they just got fouled and going for a dunk. Like, I can't just be like, what happened? So, the questions are definitely tough, but it's just like, you just kind of got to get into the zone and not crack. But it's okay. What's okay, and I tell people all the time, it's okay if you don't know the answer, but just talk through what's your solution and like what you would have done if you knew how to like code it out. Because they want to see your thought process. And I think sometimes people get caught up in not knowing how to write out the exact code, but a lot of programming is simply like problem solving. And you have those skills from other aspects of your career.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. I've never been in a technical interview. I've only heard about them, and I've seen that people write books and books about like how to master tech interviews, especially at startups or big companies, corporate companies.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really impressive that my friend was able to do this after 3 months of a bootcamp.
So I will not lie to you. On all my technical interviews, I was sweating, but like, I mean, it's funny because like people that offers, like they said they couldn't tell, but like I was hot, like I was sweating, like this, but trying to like just keep it calm.
Yeah.
So you've said a few key things, and one of which was how now is the time we should capitalize on the opportunity and everything else. So what does that really mean for someone? Because thinking that the opportunity just will fall on your lap, how can someone who wants to be in tech prepare for it and kind of get ready? So in your case, you knew you wanted to do it, so you had some background. What can we do to just be prepared for it and not necessarily isolate ourselves from that opportunity when it comes in, or if it comes,
I think preparing yourself in this moment, with like D&I being the head of most corporations, is just like, doing your networking, laying the groundwork early, making sure, your work speaks for itself. But also, I was on a call earlier and spoke to this, like, people want to hire, people want to promote, people want to vouch for their friends.
Yeah.
And I think in our community, the Black community, that's something that we kind of have trouble with. And we feel like we might feel like inauthentic, like, oh, like I don't like talking about fill in the blank of something that, you know, your white coworkers might be talking about, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But it's like, we hire our friends. If it was up to us, we would hire our friends. Let's be honest. And that's what people do naturally. So it's not inauthentic, but it's as, you know, one of my engineering managers said recently, you have to play the game. You have to lay the groundwork. You have to, you know, just let people know that you are qualified and like have the analytics ready after you've done your networking piece. That's the personal stuff. But then you have to have the analytical piece also to back that up.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's a no-brainer. But you literally can't, as people of color, you literally can't do one without the other. So you can't have your work tip top, but you are racing out and not doing any virtual happy hours. It's just, that's not an option we have for ourselves. Or you can't like have your work be grade A and then you're not participating in like department conversations, just little, you know, little stuff that we just really don't like doing because it's small talk, but it is what it is.
Very true.
That's interesting. When you said that people like to hire their friends, I think we say that often, but then when you said think about yourself, I'm like, oh, I guess that is true. At the end of the day, you want to hire somebody who, you know, you feel like you have something in common with, that when your back is against the wall, this is the person you want to fight back on your team. So
I think, I mean, at the end of the day, you do want to hire your friends, but some spaces, as you kind of go up the ladder, it gets harder because then you look around and you're like, my friends don't have any background on this and nor interest in it, right? So I think by even having you on tonight, we're showing people, hey, here's some career paths that are not traditional, that are out there, and it's possible for you. Because at the point, I would love to hire my friends, and I wish they could be interested in the tech field. Is just so much out there for folks, and just get into it. Great.
Yeah, I agree, Eunice, because I mentor outside of work through my fraternity every Saturday and Sunday, and the key thing I tell all my mentees all the time is go into tech. Like, even if you don't know what you want to do in tech, there's so many different avenues, so many different opportunities, so many different ways to be in the tech industry that you'll always have job security. That's the direction that the society is going, right? Everything's going to have some influence of tech in it. So.
Yeah, everything. And like you said, the opportunities in tech are so broad. Like, you know, we even like there's 5 of us on this call, and we don't know all the avenues that tech could lead to. You know,
Right.
there's just so many avenues in tech, and they're adding new ones every year, and new career paths. So is that for me? I think it's definitely like, you know, anybody that's even coming out of college, whatever your degree is in, if you get into tech in some way, shape, or form, like you said, job security is there, and room for growth is there.
Yeah, I think, Harold, you and I can definitely relate to that, right? None of our degrees are tech-based. It doesn't mean that you can't go, you know, you can't go that avenue. So I think it is very, while you went a non-traditional path to get there, I also look at tech as almost a non-traditional career, right? In some regards, because you can have a background and degree and a whole bunch of things and still be successful in tech, like you said, just by getting the appropriate training or certifications in other areas that make it very viable. So, yeah.
For sure.
So let's talk about those degrees. So I'm a proud alumnus of a historically Black college, and I had a
Me too.
Only me?
Sean are the chosen ones tonight, but we weren't going to mention the other schools. I didn't mention my school name because I knew the Rattlers don't know how to act.
That's right.
Or the Eagles.
Listen, don't come for us Eagles. We fly high now.
But so when we met in 2013, Gerda, I remember the sticker shock when I realized how much I had signed my name on the dotted line for to receive that humanities degree from that amazing liberal arts college and trying to figure out how to monetize it all. And that was when you told me, you were like, should have stuck with football, basketball, or something. Education paid for. And for me, a light bulb went out. I was like, I could have been, still a great student, but a really average football player and had my education paid for. So I guess, what advice would you give others about obtaining debt-free education? Because you did it twice. I'm really jealous. Every time I write that check to my Great Lakes, I'm like, this is not my Great Lakes. This is your Great Lakes. I mean, what advice would you give? I mean, I heard you were a good basketball player in high school. I didn't see you brag about your college years. I didn't see you do that.
Okay. So to be completely transparent, so I was a pretty good high school basketball player. I was an average college basketball player. Like, and by good, I wasn't the best on my high school team. So that's like, let's get that on the table. But the best player did go to GW for my class. So she also got, $100,000 education for free. And I had another teammate go to UVA and so $100,000 education for free. Nonetheless, obviously sports does provide a lot of student athletes in the Black community opportunities to go to college for, if not free, a discounted rate, if you have a partial or full scholarship. So, if you have kids and like they actually like sports, honestly, I would love to put my kids in sports. Now, if they don't like it, that's another thing. I wouldn't like force your child to play basketball. I think that's kind of like ridiculous, and there are parents that do that. But it afforded me an education that I may or may not have gotten had I not played. To be honest, I will say there wasn't like a plan B if I didn't get a full ride to somebody's college. So that might have been poor planning. That was poor planning on my end. Because like I said, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Sport. But it was. I mean, I got a great opportunity to attend a top 100 university for free. For that,
a kid who wasn't good at sports, that was me, in the great football state of Texas. And
listen, there's Division 1, there's Division 2, there's Division 3. Okay, you find one of them.
Looking back at those student loan payments that I'm still paying for now that I've been out of school longer than I was in school, I really wish I could play D2 football.
When I'm out with my friends and they start bringing up those student loan conversations, I slowly but surely just exit the conversation because I do. It is. I mean, I when you're younger, you don't like. Obviously, everybody's like, oh, like athletic scholarship is a great opportunity. But when you come out and I hear the amounts, I'm like, wow, I was extremely blessed, and my child will be playing some type of sport. We'll just, put a ball in the crib just to like have that in the back of their mind that they will play something.
No, that definitely makes sense. So I want to pivot again.
Okay.
And talk a little bit about the current social political climate. So we know that there's a lot going on with COVID and kind of the health crisis happening. The health crisis has had a trickle-down effect to the economy. So lots of people are unemployed. And then in the midst of all of this is kind of a bubbling up of social unrest due to police violence against Black folks, right? You and some friends decided to raise some money as your response to this. That was your protest. How did that come about? And tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay. So when all this stuff was happening, and we say it as if like it's new, right? But all this stuff was being publicized in the media is a better way to say this. Yeah. I think it was something that we were no longer able to like think of passively. Mm-hmm. I'm somebody that always kept in contact with a lot of like my friends from high school, and I reached out to them individually. There's 9 of us total, but I reached out to the 8 of them and hit them up and asked if they would be interested in putting together a scholarship. So I got that idea from some other like Woodbridge High School alums in the area. They had started scholarships in their own individual names at their respective high schools. And then at the Black and Latino Alumni Board, we started a scholarship, endowed scholarship for Black and Latino alums at Stony Brook. So I was like, okay, like, education has really grew my network. You know, the free education, obviously not everybody's going to get athletic scholarship. That's just the reality of it. But we can still have Black children go to school for a discounted price. And it's helped them get the encouragement they need to, you know, make the decision like, I am going to go to college. Like I can make it work. It is expensive, but you know, with this scholarship, it helps me get a little bit further to the goal. So I hit all of them up. Everybody said yes. So thank God I didn't have to sell them to
beg and plead.
Right, I'd have to beg and plead. So then we started hopping on Zoom calls. Everybody started coming up with a lot of great ideas, multiple Google Docs, the usual, and and the original amount that I said to everybody like we should come up with an amount that we're all comfortable with giving out of our pocket every year. And then the original amount that they wanted to raise was only about 5,000. I say only because, as I said, there's 9 of us in the group. So 9 divided by 5,000, that's really nothing when you think about it. And when we're asking our peers in the networks of the 9 of us. So I challenged them and said, I really think we can get to $10,000 easily with us being, still involved with various stuff and still talking to people from our high school. I think that shouldn't be a hard ask between 9 people. So I got a little pushback. I'm actually the person that set up the GoFundMe. So it was, I had the last day, and some of them were a little shocked when I put the number up there at 10,000. But we were able to raise $10,000 in less than 2 weeks. So I think it was 12 or 13 days we got $10,000. And that was, from Black alumni and white alumni, because like I said earlier, it's time to strike when the iron's hot. Right now it's in their face. It's not something not that they don't care. I think they care a lot and that they're very supportive. But the reality is it's something they don't have to think about every day.
Yeah, $10,000 is definitely a lot of money. I think if I asked 9 of my close friends, we'd be closer to that $5,000 figure or $500 figure because we all got student loans. But I'm gonna leave that one on.
No, we were able to get it in 12, 13 days, and we had a lot of great support from all types of alum, and so it was great. So now we're thinking about, we're in the process of devising like a mentorship program. As Michelle mentioned, like I wish I had a mentor when I was in high school, trying to figure out like what my next step was going to be. Even with a full ride, I still didn't know like what my next academic step was really going to be. So we're devising a mentorship program and then looking to grow that scholarship annually.
Okay, so 20,000 next year, 50 the year after.
I'll look for your check. Okay.
I'll put a little something on it. Put me on a little payment plan.
That's really great what you're doing. I mean, it's extremely important. I had the opportunity when in high school, believe it or not, Fannie Mae established a scholarship that, hey, if you in high school for 4 years maintain X GPA, A's and B's, you will pay for your college degree if you go into the field of accounting or finance.
Right.
Fortunate enough where I had a great mentor, and I've had great mentors throughout not just my life, but my career as well. So it's important for me to give back. So just hearing you and your group of friends and people that wanted to support you to collect funds to put a scholarship together, because not everyone has the means to go to school. And people think it's 2020, what are we talking about? We're still talking about the same thing, right? There's people that are of color and not also who can't afford a college education. And scholarships just go a long way to the that will actually want to do more with themselves outside of high school.
Exactly.
Let's give them that option. So that's great you guys are doing.
No, for sure. And I think, as you mentioned, that that opportunity that Fannie Mae provided, that's something that we kind of also want to start getting, like just letting kids know, like there's options out there.
Oh, yeah.
There's one scholarship, and then there's other options if you go to this route, or if you go to become like a bio major, engineering major. But you have to know early, like you can't come in the freshman year now.
Exactly. And being prepared, right? Because these opportunities exist, so you have to be prepared for it so that when it comes, you can take advantage of it, not being left to the side. So, like you said, looking at it early, knowing what you need to do to be prepared for it so you can, just take it for granted.
Yeah, that's why I challenge all my friends and all my all my friends to go back and mentor, because it's one of the most important things that you can do. If you don't have the money to give back, share your knowledge. Knowledge is far more than actual dollars in your pocket. So definitely encourage everyone to, if you haven't aligned yourself with the mentoring program, I challenge everyone to do that today.
Yeah,
there's a lot of kids that need it.
Honestly, or start your own. Like,
exactly.
You know, I think everybody gets like overwhelmed when we think about these grandiose ideas and like, oh, like I have to like do something on a national level.
Right.
Like people right in your neighborhood, right in your high school,
right in your neighborhood,
at your university. It doesn't matter how big or small of school you went to, that would love for you to mentor them or would love for you to start a similar scholarship. Like it doesn't have to be like the national Black Lives Matter fund or an NAACP. It doesn't have to be these great organizations. There's people locally that would love for you guys to give back to them.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So what is your driving force? Why do you give back, and why do you think it's important for young Black professionals to give back?
For me, it's important because I know that, I've been blessed with so much. I was blessed to have a free education, and that wasn't, luck, that wasn't my chance. So I feel like I have to give back because my education was free. So in order to feel like I earned it, I need to give back to other, Black and brown students that might not have the same opportunity. That's for me. That's personally why I give back. It's not about like, oh, got my free education. See y'all. Like,
right.
And I think that probably comes from the fact that just playing sports, being like on a team all my life for the most part, and being like a team player. Like there's many aspects to the team, and being a team player means like sacrificing and giving back to people that need it. And I was fortunate for like those Black professionals that gave back, their time, whether it be my coach, who was, a Howard grad at the time, and he like was a top businessman in the area, or other, Black professionals, a Black teacher that we had at our high school. Like all those Black professionals I remember to this day. I remember the hard lessons. I remember like the laughs. And I really thank them for that.
Yeah, I think you hit on some good points, right? But I think also the one of the key reasons why it's important for us as young Black professionals to give back is we always talk about somebody said it, generational disparities. If we're not giving back, then we're not helping close that gap, right? Mm-hmm. We're not helping educate those that are to come after us on how they can stay in the forefront, how they can close on the gaps of systemic racism in the corporate world. You talked early on about how it was a struggle, right? And you weren't really going anywhere in the finance realm. And that's really primarily because of the lack of mentorship and guidance of others that look like us, that is, are essentially standing up for us and saying, hey, here's this talented young African-American Black woman who it needs to excel, right? And pushing you in the right direction to do that. And you were able to get there by other means, which is awesome, but everybody doesn't have that opportunity. So those of us that get it, it's important for us to definitely give back and pay it forward and be that voice, right? Of education. What do we always say, y'all? Let's get smarter together. That's what this is about, right?
And I think as you were mentioning some things about generational disparities, I think sometimes we also forget in the Black community that not everybody has the same start, right?
Right.
And I think, growing up in the suburbs of Woodbridge, but spending my whole adult life in Bedside, Brooklyn, I'm like, all right, well, having a single parent household in Woodbridge and having a single parent household in Bedside, Brooklyn are two different things. Right. And the mentorship is important because like there's just some things that certain people just aren't going to be exposed to without a mentor. And there's a lot of students that have so much potential, but their potential will never be actualized because of the lack of mentorship.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Gerda, for being here tonight. Please let the people know how they can reach you, Instagram, Facebook.
So you can reach me on Facebook, Gerda Gatling, Gerda, last name Gatling, Gatling, or Instagram, Who's Your Data, WHO.
That is super catchy. Love it.
I'll give a plug to my name. My dad, I think my dad is on here actually. A plug to my name is my first name is my Dutch grandma. And my middle name is my Nigerian grandma. So who's your dada? Dada is my middle name. WHOSURDATTA.
And before we go, Harold, there looks like there's one question from the audience that I think we should take. So Rick wants to know, how much of an influence does your drive and passion of playing sports have to do with your journey in tech, like your competitive edge?
That's a good question. I think playing sports really helps when it comes to like the confidence, especially when I'm coming into a new career in tech, and just like wanting to be the best. I think when you play sports, you kind of have that natural like competition between yourself and then your teammates. Because though you're all on the team, like there's only 5 starting spots, right? So I mean, you could be a starter or you could be on the bench. I feel like that's kind of synonymous in careers too. You could be, excelling, or you can just be a pacer through your career. So for me, I definitely always want to excel. Even like when though I'm new and I might make a mistake, I'm just like, dang, like I can't make that mistake again. Like, I got to constantly just be getting better. And I think that has really kind of helped me in every career that I've been in, honestly, because you just constantly want to get better. It's not really a competition between anybody else but yourself.
Yeah, definitely fair enough. Well, speaking of getting better, you also host some Instagram fitness stuff, right? You want to give a plug to that?
Harold, thank you for reminding me. So yeah, I do do a little bit of Instagram fitness, and honestly started out with just me trying to get better and be in shape while we were in quarantine. Instead of putting on that quarantine 15, and I was working out.
The rest of us have done already, right?
I was working out in my living room because I had just moved to the back to the area, so the furniture was sparse. I had a little space. So I started recording myself and putting it up every day on my Instagram stories. So now it's like I have an accountability partner of Instagram because people are expecting me to post it every day.
The world is your accountability partner.
Actually, the world ends up being my accountability partner. I actually got the opportunity to be in a Nike commercial randomly. Yeah, I got a little 2 seconds of fame, literally. So I host IG Live workout classes bi-weekly on Thursdays. So
I tune in.
Everyone, if you ever want to stop in, it's a nice HIIT class. You will be very tired. Make sure you drink some water before, and we'll get it. We'll get better together.
All right, and then how can the people support the scholarship? So I know you've already reached your goal, but we never turned down any money for education.
We never turned down any money. We are still collecting money till this day. It is Forest Park Black Alumni Association on Facebook. There'll be a link to the GoFundMe on there. And we would, anybody that's willing to support, we would love the support. Let me just make sure it's the right link. Yep. So yeah, it's Forest Park Black Alumni Association on Facebook.
And we'll definitely share that in the comments and link to the video as well. So thanks again. Just as a reminder, we are everything that we need through networking, hard work, and being open to new opportunities. We have the power to control our destinies. This is your call to action to take risk on yourself and use your success to pay it forward. Please join us next time on Thursday, July 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern, where YBC members Eunice and Rachel will be co-moderating a discussion with U.S. Department of Treasury Auditor Lawrence Gonzalez entitled Making Money Make Sense. Until next time, this has been your YBC Revolt Talk.